Every single cell relies on your thyroid. That's why there are so many different symptoms that can go along with having an underactive thyroid or hypothyroid. So as women, we're like, oh, why am I fatigued all the time, or brain fog, or weight gain, or your hair, skin, nails, liver, kidneys, bones, brain, every cell is controlled by the thyroid hormones.
Welcome to What I Wish I Knew. I am your host, Irene Ortiz-Glass. What I Wish I Knew is dedicated to providing women with information and a guided path to find purpose, healing, and joy. It is to give women power and permission to go inward during the time of perimenopause and menopause, to find their inner compass while also actively making changes that allow them to thrive during this period of time in life. In this season, we are focusing on issues surrounding the menopause transition, and I will share what I wish I knew. Today's podcast will be focused on the power of the thyroid and cellular metabolism. As a disclaimer, this podcast is for informational purposes only and does not replace working directly with your doctor. Today, I am thrilled to have my guest with us today, Jennifer Foege. Jennifer is a certified women's holistic hormone specialist, a certified life coach, and a certified yoga instructor. She has been in practice for 27 years, has a bachelor's degree in psychology and a master's degree in functional nutrition. I have been blessed by Jennifer. She has been my own practitioner coach during my certification. And Jennifer, I'm just really happy to have you here today. Would love for you to share with our audience today a little bit about how did you get into this world of nutrition and holistic women's health?
So I think like anything where we are today, it's just been a confluence of events in our life that got us here. So just whenever I ran into health problems or physical or mental health, no one seemed to be asking the right questions. And that just wasn't okay with me. So I took those as opportunities to grow and to learn and to teach myself how to ask the right questions, because I didn't want to feel helpless or powerless or, not that that's how a lot, I think a lot of women probably feel that way, but it's not our fault. It's just that we haven't been educated. And so my mission then has been to, whenever something came up in my life, to try and figure out the why behind it. I'm super curious about the why. And then I want to fix it one time. So, hormonally, it started, I never got my period, never. And so it was, the doctors were just like, oh, whatever. Finally, when I was 18, they were like, well, maybe, this is not okay. So we're going to put you on pill, right? Because that's their answer for kind of everything. What I figured out was going on was that I had something called hypothalamic amenorrhea, which is when your body will always prioritize survival over reproduction.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I never had this feeling of safety. So my body was like, it's not safe to reproduce. So just so all of you know, so stress on a woman is a real thing.
And was that trauma-induced, Jennifer? Was that like traumatic experiences that caused you to fear that?
Yeah.
We talk a lot about that in our practice, yeah.
Met a man, and then I had whatever. And then my husband died. And so then that was another trauma, and I lost my period again. And
Interesting.
so yeah, hormones are really, really important. I had osteoporosis when I was 33 because I never cycled. So I didn't have the estrogen and progesterone to build up my bones. And
right. So all these hormones are so powerful, right? We sort of underestimate like trauma, the hormones shutting down as a response to that. People wonder in the transition why they feel so terrible. Well, there's just stress everywhere, and stress impacts the hormone. And it also, as we've discussed, impacts thyroid, right? So thyroid and thyroid metabolism. So tell us about the thyroid. Like, what is the thyroid and why should we care about it?
Yeah, exactly. We should all care about our thyroid. So it's just a gland located right here, okay? But it is a very, very important gland. So it controls the cellular metabolism of every single cell in your body. Every single cell relies on your thyroid, okay? And so that's why there are so many different symptoms that can go along with having an underactive thyroid or hypothyroid. And it could, so as women, we're like, oh, I don't know, right? Why am I fatigued all the time, or brain fog, or weight gain, or, I mean, your hair, skin, nails, liver, kidneys, bones, brain. I mean, it's every cell is controlled by the thyroid hormones. And so the active hormone would be the T3. And a lot of doctors don't test for that one. So if we have an underactive thyroid, we need to test for not just the TSH, but the T4 and the T3. And then hopefully, if your doctor will, the reverse T3.
And tell us about those different, I know every doctor I've ever been to said you just need a TSH and a T4. And I believed that for years. And then until I got into functional medicine, and they're like, the only thing that matters is T3. So can you explain the TSH, T4, and T3 to us for just a moment?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's all kind of a negative feedback loop, positive, negative feedback loop, telling your thyroid, what it's supposed to release. So the reason that conventional medicine tests just the TSH is, again, they're just not educated. They're not trying to hurt you as a woman. They just don't know. And so TSH, they see as like an overall kind of bigger marker of what's going on. So they look at just that hormone. Okay. But if you think about it, and if we're kind of even like, how does that even make sense? Because the hormone that actually does all of these great things for us is T3. So wouldn't we want to measure the amount of free T3 in our body? So the T4 is excellent, right? But it's the inactive form. It needs to be turned into the free T3. And that free T3 needs to be able to get into your cells to do its job. So testing all four, or including reverse T3 if we're allowed to, is really important to get the overall picture of what is going on.
And hardly anybody knows about reverse T3. In fact, when someone told me about it, it was after surgical menopause when I was going wacko. And somebody said, well, everything looks fine. And then they did the reverse T3 and it was like through the roof, right?
Yeah.
So what is reverse T3 and how might it start to get a little wonky during the transition?
Oh, great question. So this is why, okay. So first of all, let's just talk about the hormones, estrogen and progesterone for just a second, because they drastically influence the thyroid and the thyroid hormone and your ability so increased estrogen is what's going to happen during the transition because we're not ovulating as much. So we're not producing as much progesterone, but the estrogen is kind of staying up here for a little while. Okay. So what estrogen does is it increases sex hormone binding globulin. Okay. But that also grabs onto the thyroid hormone. So it grabs onto T4 and doesn't let it turn into T3. Okay. Wow. And then progesterone is needed to so progesterone helps with, I'm going to get a little bit technical here, but
no, it's good. We need it.
Okay. It helps keep like zinc and potassium in your cells, which help the T3 to get in there. So with progesterone, basically, when we think of it, it opens up the cell and it says, come on in, T3. Okay. So without that progesterone, the ability for, first of all, estrogen is binding more of it. And then progesterone is like not there. So it's not as much as getting in. So when women are going through this transition, your thyroid your thyroid hormones are affected by it. Like, sure. There's no doubt about it. Okay. So I think just having that knowledge is really important. And then secondly, if we get to reverse T3, that is, again, something that we really have to look at because evolutionarily, reverse T3 makes sense. Okay. It's just the way that we live now, like our lifestyles, this is something I say, are maladapted to hormone balance, not the other way around. Okay. So we as women have, not that we can't do all of these great things and we're not like powerful and, we can like get stuff done and we can totally do it, but we're not supposed to be doing all of it all the time. Okay.
You mean the superhero thing of,
Yes.
all the homework and all the career while
Yeah.
we're, taking
Yeah.
care of parents and cleaning the house and making
Yes.
dinner. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Nobody's going to relate to that.
Yeah. That's not me.
Yeah.
Um, so, so what happens? So if you think about it, okay. So, and then also like food that we're eating. So during this time, we're like, oh my gosh, why am I gaining weight? So then we're cutting back on calories. Okay. And so we go back to evolution. Okay. So let's say, whatever, we're living in a cave. I know this is very trite to say this, but we're doing that. Right. And there's no food. What your body wants to do is it wants to slow down your metabolism. Okay. All of those, because it wants to save your energy.
Yeah.
Right. So that you don't starve to death.
That's right.
Okay. All right. So then it turns that free T3 into reverse T3.
Yeah.
And so reverse T3 is not active. And they both connect to the same receptor site.
That's
So
right.
if reverse T3 is there, it turns off the function. Okay. So that makes sense from an evolutionary perspective, right?
Yes, 100%.
Then with our body, stress is generic. Okay. So our body doesn't necessarily distinguish, the endless to-do list in our brain from us having to run away from a tiger or any of that sort of thing. And so, or from illness as well. So if you're ill, if you have just like too much stress, your body's going to be like, okay, so I'm going to save all my energy so that I can heal. So I can lay in the cave and I can heal, right? Then when I put my energy away from this cellular metabolism and I'm going to put it to right here because this bone is broken. And so then you have more reverse T3.
I cannot stress the importance of what you're saying. I cannot. I mean, this right here is worth all of it. This education that you are explaining to us is why women are suffering. It is why we cannot get out of our own fogginess, weight gain, energy. This was so big for me. When I got thyroid right, everything else, kind of started to like me more. It was kind of a miracle.
Yeah.
But the reverse T3 thing I think is so interesting because after surgery, obviously my body wanted to heal, but it shut down my thyroid. So we had to be very slow and low about bringing some T3 into my life.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So, you have done a lot of testing with women, right? You offer this, you are a lead facilitator for us at Menno Coaching. You offer testing and feedback. Tell us, how do we test? What is the best test for this and how do we heal? Like, what should we be thinking about to heal the thyroid and testing?
Great question. So currently the way to test thyroid hormones is through a blood draw. And so you test all of them. So the TSH, T4, and T3, reverse T3. And then once you have that information, then, you can talk with your doctor. There are synthetic hormone replacements. You want to make sure that if that's the route that you're going, that they're not just giving you TSH because you need the T3. Okay. So that's the active form. That's what you want to supplement with. Okay. Other ways to then, so that's the medication route. Okay. You can also get a thyroid glandular. I think you take that, Irene, right?
Yeah, compounded thyroid, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so that is a desiccated thyroid. It's usually from a pig or a cow. Okay. And so that is giving you all the thyroid hormones.
So it's like an Armor, right? Or something like that used to be on the market. Yeah. So I was on that for a while, but now I'm actually on a compounded version. So it's from, a compounded pharmacy. We use King's, but it's been really the best thing for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are several different desiccated thyroids that you can get. So one is Thyroid Armor. There's a couple other ones. My favorite one is one that's out of New Zealand. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it's it's a great one. And New Zealand is known for its like organic, because if you're getting a glandular, you don't want the gland from some farm lot
Yep.
pig or
That's
cow.
why I do compounding
Yeah.
pharmacy. Yeah, I was a little worried about all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I didn't respond well. I mean, a lot of us I'm super sensitive. Yes, that's just my life story, but I'm sensitive to everything, including medication. So I don't do well on synthetic, and I don't do well with anything from a farm. And I just
Yeah.
always prefer, whatever as natural as I can get works best for me. And that's different for everybody. But no, it's really good information. So what about natural ways? If somebody didn't, I always say like first line, maybe try some supplements that could try to stimulate the thyroid and nutrition and see if that works before we go into other things. Any recommendations on naturally stimulating thyroid?
Yeah, absolutely. So first you want to feed yourself well. So we're always looking at like food first. So it's a like it's a very easy concept, but it's revolutionary because we've been so purposefully manipulated by the food industry and the diet industry and that sort of thing. But so we just want to start with eating like real food, okay? Which is a whole other topic. So that we're healthy in that way. Great supplements to support the thyroid. One that I really like is called orthothyroid, and it has there's certain nutrients that your thyroid needs. Okay, so it needs zinc, it needs selenium, it needs iodine. Okay, and it also needs L-tyrosine. Okay, and so those are like 4 key supplements, okay, that you can get to help your thyroid. And so taking a supplement like that is a great idea. And if we're thinking about going back to food and like gut health, we want to make sure that our gut is functioning properly, because even if we're eating the best food and we are getting enough selenium, we are getting enough zinc, most people aren't.
Yeah.
But if our GI tract isn't, let's say it's permeable, or let's say, we're under a lot of stress and we're not digesting our food properly, then we're not going to get those nutrients.
That's right.
Again.
That's right.
So everything is just connected.
Yeah. And that's what we preach, right, at Mental Coaching.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
one of the things that I experienced here was I had some trouble with my thyroid. We got it to a happy place. Then I'm, taking HRT or, bioidentical hormones and all that went, and then my body changed again. And then the thyroid got sluggish. And I'm like, I don't want to take more, medication, right? I don't want to take more thyroid medicine. So I started selenium, and selenium like changed my life. And it did increase my T3. And then I mentioned to you recently, here I am going through all of this, trying to help every person I can. And even now, most recently developed 2 fibroids. Did not have fibroids before, just found them 2 weeks ago in my uterus, and, had some bleeding and some pain, and, freaked out that, immediately every woman goes to, I have cancer. So went there in my head, went to the doctor, and it's so interesting. The first thing, one of the doctors like, well, we can take the uterus out. I'm like, for the love of God, can we stop taking my body parts out? And then I said, no. And or we can monitor it, or we can take down the estrogen. I said, you know what? I'm going to start with what I know, and what I knew, and what I wish everybody knew, and why we're here is that iodine shrinks tumors. It shrinks uterine fibroids. It shrinks, it can shrink cysts in the right amounts, and if you can tolerate it. And so Irene went out and got her little desiccated iodine, and guess what? I stopped bleeding, and they're going down. I don't feel them. And they're there, but they're not hurting me, and they're not in the way. And so this is life-saving stuff, right?
Okay.
This is it. So when you think about iodine's power around one last area, I just want to focus on for a minute, because everyone comes to us about this. Weight, right? Everyone cares about how does thyroid affect weight?
Yes. Excellent question. So as I said, it controls all of your cellular metabolism. Okay. And so every cell needs energy in order to work. Okay. So if your thyroid is sluggish, right? So then all of the cellular metabolism is going to kind of slow down. Okay. And so your cells are saying, well, we don't need that much energy right now. Okay. We're going to save it for whatever else is going on here. Right. Okay.
Yep.
So then that decreases your metabolism. So we would call that your the way that you just your basic basal body metabolism, what happens,
Got it.
how much calories you burn when you're just like basically sitting and doing nothing. So that decreases. And then, so then women are like, oh my gosh, like what's going on? I haven't changed anything.
Yes,
I
they say that.
all the time.
Yeah.
Yes. I was just on the phone yesterday with a woman. She's like, what is going on? She's like, I've always been in shape. She's like, I still exercise. I'm eating the same. She's like, I have love handles. This is not okay. Like,
Yes.
what is happening? So, so once you're in, like we started off saying, once you're in this perimenopause, menopause transition, and your hormones are fluctuating, your thyroid hormones are fluctuating as well.
Yeah.
So to support your thyroid with what we were talking about with diet and also with lifestyle, with, trying to be mindful and care for yourself with some self-compassion versus, looking at your, newly developed love handles and then getting and judging yourself, right?
Well,
Like,
judging yourself and then going to extreme measures not to eat and starve yourself and work out 15 hours a day and then have the whole slowdown, right? That's the part that just makes me crazy, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what happens because that's what we're thinking. We're like, this was working before. Why isn't it working now? And so once you reach this transition, we have to remember that what worked then probably isn't going to work now. And if it's not working now, then we got to try something new. Right.
100%.
And a lot of us are afraid to possibly try something new because we're like, well, this worked. But if we think about it, okay, is it working now? No. All right.
Yeah.
Let's try something new. You have nothing to lose, right? We're just
No, not at all. Not at all. So Jennifer, thank you so much for this amazing information. You're working with us, as a lead facilitator and coach for menocoaching.com. How else can people find you if they're interested in reaching out or connecting with you?
Oh, thank you for asking. My website, it's just my name. So it's Jennifer Foege, F as in Frank, OEGE.com.
Great.
Yep.
Great.
Yeah.
So thank you everybody for joining us today. Please make sure to follow us on Apple iTunes and, make sure to give us some feedback on how we're doing so other people can get information on how to find us. And please visit us at menocoaching.com. We have resources there. We have coaches. We have testing in the gut for gut microbiome, for thyroid, for hormones, and a whole team of people waiting to help. So thanks again for being with us today, and we look forward to another podcast together. I just want to thank our partner, Mira Fertility Tracking, for working with us to help women to get connected to the opportunity to actually measure hormones at home. It is the technology that I personally used during my menopausal transition. It was life-changing for me. You can find more information on Mira on our website at menocoaching.com, and you can also find it in our show notes for this podcast. We look forward to supporting you in your hormone transition.
What I Wish I Knew is produced and distributed by EIQ Media Group, LLC. Elevate your emotional IQ with podcasts and content focused on leadership, mental health, spirituality, women's health, overcoming adversity, and more.